Hey, this is Read Write Exercise. In this video, we're going to be going over the different kind of props that you can pass to a component. So I just created this Nuxt project. It's pretty simple, and I made a very simple and useless component here. It's called Hello World. So if we take a look at the code for this component, this is the parent page and the parent component where it's importing this Hello World component. All it does is put out this Hello World text. So the three different types of props or properties that you can pass to a component, and here's my component, this Hello World here, is first you can do like a normal string. Let's just say a normal string. And then you can also have this colon that you'll see sometimes. And then you can also have this @ symbol that you'll see sometimes. Okay, so we'll be going over these three different kinds. And this last one's not really actually a prop. It's something different, but we'll go through that later on in the video. So I think these two are especially different for me coming from a React background. And that's why I wanted to make this video. So hopefully it will help others coming from a React background or people just learning Vue to start. So first let's go over the first one, which is just a normal string. So let's say here we're going to pass in a name, and this time instead of it saying hello world, we want it to say hello, whatever the name is. So let's say we want, my name is going to be Jim Bob. So we'll save that. Right now it's not passing anything in, which is totally fine. We haven't changed our component here. So let's say within this, we're going to take in name. And we can actually define our props in here. I think I know we don't technically need to define the props in order for us to take in. So we could save this up and it would update. Actually, we do have to define it. Okay, that's good. So in here we've got props, and then we'll add in a name. And this is going to be of type string. And the default for the name, let's say, is going to stay as world. So once we save that, then it will properly take it in. Whoops, let's see what we got here. Okay, there we go. So it takes in Jim Bob, which is the name that we passed in. Okay, cool. So let's say we want to really have a more personalized greeting for our person that we're adding in here. And let's say that our person is more complex than just a simple name. So let's add in our person here. So we're going to have data, and this is going to return an object which will have our person, which is good old Jim Bob here, and it's going to have a name, and our name is still going to be Jim Bob, and then we're going to also have an age. Very complex guy. So let's just say his age is 59. And now we're still passing in the same string here, which is fine. But instead we want to now pass in our person. Okay. And our person is going to be this object that we just decided to pass in. The reason that we want to pass in our person is that, let's say now we have, let's actually just change this up to be person. And this is going to be an object. And let's say our default person is going to have a name, which will be world. And the age for the world will be, what's it, like 4 billion years old? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Something like that. You can feel free to comment if there are varying opinions about how old the world truly is. Okay, so let's say this is our default object that we have here. And if we don't pass anything in, then it should take that object. And let's say now we're going to have our person. So let's say we want to do person.name. Okay, so that's there. And let's change this, make sure this is saved, that updates here. Now it should say hello world. Okay. And what we care about now is if the person that we're talking to is older than, let's say, 50 years old, then we want to just say you're super old, and otherwise we're going to say like you're very young. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll add computed props now. So let's say computed, and in here we can have like our greeting, and this is going to be return if person dot age if this. What do we got here? Making some errors. Types can only be used in a TS file. Okay, let's get rid of that. All right, great. So now I'll do if this dot person dot age is greater than 50, I think we said. Then we're going to return you are super old. Otherwise, we will say you are looking young. Super creative. Okay, so we've got our greeting, which is a computed property here. And so we've got hello, and then right here we just want to have our good old greeting. Okay, so we should get the age and the name. And if we have this here, okay, we have the world, so it's still taking in the default, and the world is super old. So if we want to just fix our punctuation or our capitalization for my ADD, and then also one more thing. Now we're fixing our punctuation. Okay, great. So we have this, we have our greeting, we're all set. Now, this is where we can't just pass in a person. Coming from a React background, you would do person and then do curly brackets, and then here we would pass in Jim Bob. But that doesn't work. You can see kind of the syntax highlighting is getting messed up. So what you do in Vue is you do v-bind, and then your colon, and then you're going to have person, and then that's where we're going to have our quotation marks, and here we can add in Jim Bob. Okay, so now we add this in. Jim Bob is 59, so it should still say you're super old. Now it says, hello Jim Bob, you are super old. If we changed him to be 40 years old, then it would say you're looking young. Hey, thanks. Okay, so the key here is this v-bind. This is basically passing in a dynamic property that allows us to put JavaScript in here. So if I wanted to, I could put in a curly brackets here and then just do direct object notation. Maybe say my name is actually Jimmy, and then I can say that the age is 12. Okay, so now this is going to update that. Now it's gonna be Jimmy, he's looking young. All right, nice. So let's go back to what we had here. And we're just gonna pass in this Jim Bob, make sure that it's still good. Okay, so this v-bind is actually, we can do shorthand here, and we can just get rid of this. And if we just have this colon, it will bind the object or whatever JavaScript I'm passing in here to this object or this property within the component. So now when we do it without it, and just to prove that we're still getting in this object, let's change this to Michael, and now it's going to update it. Okay, so now we can see the different props that we've had so far. One is just the string by itself, and now this one includes the colon before it, which is shorthand for the v-bind. The other thing that we want to show here is the @ symbol. So this @ it's easy to get it confused with the colon because you're really just coming in with all these different symbols. The @ is basically an event handler. So in here we can do @click, and when that happens, we want to console log stop clicking me. And then we'll close that out. Okay, so the at is basically just adding, it's the same thing as if you were to add like an on-click event. This is how you do it in React. So let's save this, come back in here, and we'll clear out our console so we can see anything there. It breaks. Apparently you can't do a console log directly in here, so we'll go ahead and we'll add a method. So in here we add methods, and then we will say, we'll just say, call it click handler. And this is going to be, this is where we'll do our console log. Stop clicking me. Okay. And then up here where we have this at this click event handler, then we can do our click handler. Okay, now clear that out and restart this page. Let's clear it again. Click got defined, unveiled handler for event click. Got undefined. Click handler, and we have click handler, right, because I'm putting it within method. So let's jump this out. And this comma is going to change to here. It's pretty ugly, so let's fix this up and drop that down. Okay, so one more thing. All right, so now we have our methods, click handler, and now this should work. So if we get rid of this, then we see stop clicking me. Okay, so that is how you're going to add an event handler to an HTML element. What you'll probably see more often is that you'll emit something from within one component and you'll emit it, you'll bubble it all the way up to other components. And so let's say in this one, we now want to add a useless thing here, which is an event, just a custom event that will say got clicked. And we'll add a method in here. We'll add this methods object. Now we can add it to our parent component. So we have our data. Okay, so we'll add methods. And now we'll just, to make sure, this is going to be called outer. So now we have our click handler. And what we want to do is once it got clicked, then we want to call our click handler. Okay. And so now from within this inner click handler is now actually going to this dot emit. And we want to emit the name of this event that we're handling here. Okay, so we're going to emit got clicked. And then once that emits, it's going to bubble up here. And then since we have an event handler here, it's going to call this click handler method that we defined, and it's going to say stop clicking me outer. So let's try this one more time. We'll clear this out and then we'll click it, and it still does the initial one, and that is because we still have this initial click handler in here. This dot emit click stop clicking me. Let's see if we stop new clicking me. Let's try that. Okay, let's try this one more time. Okay, so I don't know why I wasn't updating, but you can see it's updating there. In React, you would kind of pass a callback function down. You don't really do that in Vue. Instead, you do this event emission, where you're emitting event, and then basically the parent component is going to catch it. Okay, and you catch it with this at. So that's the meaning of these at properties. They're not really properties, they're actually event handlers, and you're handling custom events here that happen within your child components. So that's the difference between a pure string prop that you pass in, and then this, which is shorthand for vbind, which is going to pass in a JavaScript object or some sort of JavaScript code in here. So you could pass in a number or anything you do in JavaScript. Whereas this one is passing in just a normal old string. And then with the at, we're doing an event handler that has happened in the child component. So those are the three different kind of properties and attributes that you'll see on components within Vue. When I first started learning Vue, these kind of confused me. I got tripped up between these two and then also vbind. So hopefully this helps out, especially if you're coming from a React background or if you're just learning Vue from the start, or if you just need a refresher. But let me know if you have questions or any other thoughts about this, things that you think might be helpful for others to know. And we'll see you in the next video.